You smell what the Rock is cooking.
Acknowledge me.
You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
We are bad to the bone. Get it? Bad to the bone.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
I'll fight anybody. Who do you want? Just let me fight him.
Let me tell you something, Jim Ross.
Bigger power, yeah.
We got it for you.
We are the best of the best.
Woo! Wheeling, dealing.
Smart marks.
And that's the bottom line, cause Stone Cold said so.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Talk 'em in the Building, a pro wrestling podcast where we talk about the promo. That's our focus, the interview. You know, getting in there with Mean Gene, getting in there with Tony Schiavone or whomever else, all about the promo. We talk about the talkers, hype the hype men, and pontificate on the promo. I'm chilling out here with my boys out of lead over on the West Coast, over in Los Angeles. What's going on?
Oh, living it up, brother. It's beautiful weather in October right now, ironically.
And then not far from here, right here in the A, Adrian, what's going on?
What's up, man? I'm doing good, man. How you living?
I'm good. So, everybody, we got a fun show tonight. So, if you don't know our format, we have some quick hits that you can go back and look at, our dusty reviews, in the building reports. But this is one of our full episodes of Talk 'em in the Building. If you don't know what that means, that's what a promo's supposed to do. It's supposed to talk you in the building, talk you into buying that PLE, pay-per-view, a subscription to ESPN, a subscription to WBD or Max
Right.
or whatever else, wherever
right.
we go watch wrestling now, all these different places. So that's what they're supposed to do. And now we look at everything. We're fans of wrestling, whether it's TNA, AEW, WWE, GCW, locals, all over the place, man. We've
Definitely.
all grown up with this wonderful sport, this wonderful entertainment, and we've all known that WWE, WWF has always been that machine.
Yes.
As for most of our lifetimes, it has been the machine. Vince McMahon turned it into that, turned wrestling into a national powerhouse. So today I want to think about wrestlers who were in the machine but became bigger stars when they left the machine.
Okay.
So if you guys don't know, we bring clips and such, and the boys don't know. Whoever's hosting, they're the ones who bring it, so nobody else knows. But Adelaide, I'm coming to you first. Just give me a name or two that kind of jumps into your mind that was in WWE. Now, here's the thing. I do want to put a caveat. I'm not talking NXT. I'm not talking OVW back in the day or in developmental. I'm talking about you were on the main roster. You were on SmackDown. You were on Raw. But you left for whatever reasons. And in your opinion, they became a bigger star. Give me one or two names.
Man, I mean, it's recency bias, right? Because that's like what we got to go on. If I go back in the history, I mean, there was really nowhere people went. You can go back to like a Nash, a Hall, but you can argue those are unique cases, right? Those are tried and true. In the modern sense, clearly Swerve just became a radically different person. You know, just in terms of going to a different company, reinventing himself, just being a totally unique individual that really just built out a version of the character that he was doing. But if I had to think of someone that stood out to me, and I will throw a little bit of curveball, and I know it was short-lived, but it was interesting to see it. And he didn't go to a big company, obviously, because he got scooped up. But Eddie Guerrero, he had a little stint in the Indies. Obviously, he was battling demons. But I was always curious, had there been an AEW, had there been a competition, what that run would have looked for, what that run would have looked like ultimately. But yeah, in the modern sense, I really think of a Swerve, someone who, you know, did make, you know, some ins and outs. And was he ever on the main roster? Maybe that's where I'm missing it. He never made it that far, right?
I think it was NXT at top.
Yeah, he made it to NXT. Man, that's a hard question now that I think about it, because in modern terms, I can only think of people that jump ship to WCW ultimately. Is the X-Pac count?
I mean, you think about it, that's a good call out, because he was 1, 2, 3 kid. He left, becomes 6, and comes back a much bigger star.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
so
And then it
Adrian,
has a like,
let's come over to you. I mean, who do you think about that had their little cup of, it could be just a cup of coffee on their main roster,
Mm-hmm.
left, and when I say a bigger star, they just become a bigger star within the industry. That doesn't mean they're a
Mm-hmm.
mainstream star. That doesn't mean they're on ESPN, Sports Center, or on Jimmy Kimmel or something, but just means that they were a bigger star within the pro wrestling universe.
I got two perfect examples. If we're talking past,
Hmm.
got to talk about Raven. Raven started with WWF as a manager, as a producer
yeah,
backstage,
yeah,
and super young. And he chose to leave. He basically quit this 6-figure job just so he can live out his dream of being a pro wrestler. And went to ECW, and that's where the legend was born, essentially, right?
uh-huh.
Now, if we're talking modern day, say look no further than Greg's hat, Cody.
Yeah.
Cody was given opportunities as in exposure, but he was never really given the keys to be
Hmm.
one of the guys. He was always with the guy. He was always under Randy and stuff like that. Or at the height of his first WWE run was a IC title run that was interesting, but never really considered upper echelon. And the tag championship run with his brother and his dad on the side, which was nostalgic,
Uh-huh.
but that was never really truly handed the keys. It wasn't
Hmm.
until he chose to leave WWE to do his tour of the independents of smaller companies where it was heavily ROH and New Japan,
Uh-huh.
the Bullet Club influence. He got a part of that when it was roaring hot. And then, of course, started AEW with those guys. So, and he came back to WWE a much bigger star and was seen by everyone as a bigger star, probably including Vince McMahon. So,
Hmm.
that's a perfect example, in my opinion, of leaving the machine and coming back even stronger.
That's definitely a good call out. I mean, I thought about Cody as well. One that jumped out at me, that I didn't bring promos for, but
Uh-huh.
I thought about a Gail Kim,
Mm,
Oh yeah.
because she was in
Yeah,
WWE,
yeah.
I think twice.
yeah.
It's so, and just so much bigger, more respected star, and really you don't think about that time. You think about her TNA time and what
Mm,
she did with the
Uh-huh.
knockouts. And no matter how good she was, I just think about her, um, just big time, right? And I just thought, man, as I was going through different ones, I was like, the ladies, Gail Kim to me was huge.
hmm
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
one. That's a really good one.
You made me think of a few more. Sorry, not to
Yeah.
pigeonhole these, but I thought of like a Drew McIntyre. Obviously, had like a whole
That's
run
a
in
good one.
Europe,
Yeah.
ICW. He just became a very different, just body type. Even I mean,
hmm
that dude completely flexed a different persona. And to a lesser extent, I always like to think of a Luke Gallows too, just
Mm,
because
Okay.
yeah.
he completely had the whole, he had the Fed run, and then he had the Bullet Club run, and then I mean, those dudes were just in it for the money for sure. More power to them.
I mean, think
and
about
an
his
afterthought of a
journey though.
run.
There was that one stop in between aces and eights.
It's
That's
true.
true.
If he
TNA.
doesn't pass through aces and eights, he doesn't make it to the Bullet Club.
Yes,
But he was
it's
actually on
hmm
my
true.
list as well.
It's true.
Not ones I brought, but he was
Right.
somebody I thought about. Man, he was with Punk and he did that. And I was kind of a Laps fan at that time frame. I say Laps.
Mm,
I was keeping
Right.
up. I wasn't really watching.
right. Right.
Knew who he was and all that. But definitely, you think about he became a much bigger star outside of WWE because of the Bullet Club.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
But who else were you about to say, Oddly? Sorry to jump in there.
No, that was it. That it was Gallows, and for me, just because he plays this kind of formative part of that era, he's always him and and Anderson are always in the background of some version of the Bullet Club eventually,
hmm
and then he rejoins, and they reform it with the AJ Styles, and there's the TNA runs and everything, and then the independent stuff they did, which I thought it was funny and it was entertaining, but I enjoyed it.
hmm
Hmm. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I did bring a couple of different ones, couple of promos and some that you know could be debated. Were they a bigger star? And I'll give you why I think they were a bigger star. But so this first one, we're gonna play both promos first. I have one while they were with the Fed, and then one outside of the Fed.
Razor Ramon.
Take a look at Razor Ramon. I living the good life, man. Me, I know how to relax, chico. I living like a king.
Night. I called you never called me back. I thought we had something going.
No, chica, you don't understand. You have something. You have a good time. I'm through with you now. Get out of here. I'm through with you. Adios. Man, the chicas, they're for fun. I probably scar her heart for life. That's too bad. I coming to the WWF, not for fun. You step into the ring with Razor Ramon, it's strictly business, chico. I'm not going to scar your heart. Oh no. I'm going to scar your soul.
You people, you know who I am. But you don't know why I'm here.
Are we going to get security here?
Where is Billionaire Ted? Where is the Nacho Man? That punk can't even get in the building. Me, I go wherever I want, whenever I want.
Listen, we need to
And where, oh where, is Scheme Gene? 'Cause I got a scoop for you. When that Ken doll look-alike, when that weatherman wannabe comes out here later tonight, I got a challenge for him, for Billionaire Ted, for the Nacho Man, and for anybody else in WCW. Hey, you want to go to war? You want a war?
Even though you brought him up a few minutes ago, Adelaide, to me, Scott Hall became much bigger as a wrestling icon in WCW. And I was a huge Razor Ramon fan and a huge Scott Hall fan. But the one thing that's interesting about, for me, before we break down these promos, he never, to my knowledge, ever wrestled as Razor Ramon again. When he went back to WWE, the only time I can remember he was referred to as Razor Ramon is in a promo when The Rock kind of called him Razor Ramon.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, he never went back, never put on the Razor shorts or any of that kind of stuff. Whereas Kevin Nash at one point did come out of the Rumble as Diesel.
Yeah.
As Diesel. Yeah.
But Scott Hall, his star rose off of that. So, Adelaide, I'm going to come to you first since you kind of brought him up earlier in your talk. Compare and contrast those two promos, and what do you think about Scott Hall becoming, in my opinion, a bigger star outside of the Fed?
It goes back to a conversation that we've had other times for different wrestlers, right, that have survived eras, right? And I think it's the idea of recognizing the moment in not just pop culture, but in wrestling history and what your place is in that moment. And for them, it was, I know there's territories. I know that, but in the idea of modern, with cable TV and how hot it was, they were that first crossover, him and Nash, that really made people think, like, what's really true, what's really happening, and made you want to switch over the channels fully. I think what's interesting is that from the get-go, Vince never knows where he's drawing inspiration from Razor. He doesn't know it. It just is basically, a guy from Maryland trying to copy a Cuban guy from a movie who was actually played by an Italian. So there's just this confluence of influence by a great actor, by the way. So it's very over the top. But that first promo is a product of the time of what wrestling was looking for, characters, really over the top. And we enjoyed it. We enjoyed it for what it was, just the cadence, the way he's like, going over and this is who I am, and I'm better than you in a lot of ways, right? And just exudes this overall, to borrow a Macho Man, he's machismo. He's machismo defined, and you're a kid and you're below 10 years old and you're looking for masculinity in your life. Better believe Razor Ramon was right up there with everybody else. So, and then you contrast that, which I think I wouldn't call it a criticism as much I think as he was trying to find who he was in that second promo. There's more hesitation in that promo. Mind you, it's live, it's in front of a crowd, it's with, a different audience that he was used to with WWF. But clearly he's trying to draw on that same cadence that he did as Razor, but it's Scott Hall. It's him trying to rile the crowd up as himself and present himself as this real version, as I'm invading and you want a war, even though, truly we knew that there was no war. He was an employee of WCW at the time, but it was cool to play along and to recognize that. And I think that's also him recognizing the moment, recognizing that was the character he was playing. And now he's still playing the character of Scott Hall now, but it has to resonate differently. You have to drop this act. And I think this is that second promo was a little bit of a flux into eventually the comfort, and he eventually morphs into this, hey, I'm Scott Hall. I'm just having a good time here. I'm making a ton of money. The people love me. It's an NWO. If you're not with me, you're missing out on the biggest party in the world, And that all those kids that we grew up, looking at it as masculinity, guess what? This is like 2.0 version of like, yeah, I want to go to that party. I'm going to buy a ticket to WCW. So it's interesting how both he and Kevin just knew their audience. And so many times with pro wrestling, it's like, it's not rocket science to know, like, who's actually watching this product. Let me point my direction at them.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely agree. Adrian, what's your take on Scott Hall and his transition from the Fed to WCW?
Well, talking about that promo in particular, I kind of get the feeling that his first line was similar in that cadence, like Adeli said, of Razor Ramon. But then it's that flip into, okay, I just did that to get a little pop off you guys. Now let me go ahead and be Scott Hall. It just seemed like that first line was more of, yes, I'm Razor Ramon. You guys may know me as Razor Ramon, but here I am as Scott Hall. So I did like it. Like, I know Ali said, it seemed like he was figuring himself out. I think the opposite. I think he knew exactly what he was doing when he did that. When he did that, he was just getting a pop out of the marks, those of us who were knowing, and then he went into his cadence. I'm still like low-key amazed with how genius that invasion or that angle or the creation of NWO was at the time. Like, you got to think about kids watching pro wrestling. You got to think about younger people who don't know anything about dirt sheets, who don't know anything about the business, watching this and seeing, holy crap, I'm seeing this guy who was on WWF for the past, all these times, coming from the crowd, jumping over a barricade. He's not announced. It's no music. It's no, it's no caption of who this man is. But I know who he is because I watched him as Razor Ramon. Is so unique. It just puts you into that time capsule, time machine of being a kid watching that and saying, "Holy crap!" Like that's cool. And that promo in particular, and when Nash finally came out, like that was cool to me. That was genuinely cool. I remember coming back to school on Tuesday mornings, first period. We would always, that was our wrestling recap. That was the early days of podcasting. Was that's when we were getting our predictions off and all that stuff. But yeah, whenever I see that, it just gets a pop out of me because of how cool the idea of that was,
I mean, there's so
and how
many
well
little
done it
elements of it
was.
too, right? I mean, why even rewatching it now? It's just so many small elements, not just about
Right,
Scott Hall,
right.
but Shivani
Mm-hmm.
and the
Mm,
banter on the back end. That's just
Mm-hmm.
it's just there. It's
Mm-hmm.
not
mm-hmm.
it's not really interrupting. It's not them freaking out. It's like, wait, what's going on, guys? What's happening? I mean,
Right.
it's just that conversation. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. The
It
reaction to the
enhances it.
yeah, 100%. It
Yeah.
takes it to the next level. Um, and I think the cool thing about that is, and this is what gets lost. Scott Hall became the Diamond Stud again.
That's
Mm.
true.
And it's like at the end of the day, when they talk about Razor, if you go back and look at the Diamond Stud, the whole look was
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Diamond Stud.
Now that you
And
say that,
so,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of it was, and even some of the way he talked. But I also remember I had no clue that Razor Ramon was Scott Hall. Like, I know that.
Mm.
I remember Scott Hall
Mm-hmm.
calling himself Magnum Scott Hall, thinking he was all
Yeah.
these different things. I had no clue that was the same dude. Like,
Hmm.
even today, if you go back and look at those old pictures, like, how is this the same dude?
Mm.
And I mean, but to me, I mean, I was a huge Razor Ramon fan. Of course, when Scott came over, I was like, well, here we go.
Right.
I'm
Right.
all
Right.
in. It is what it is. And but no, and so going back to the whole leaving the Fed. So I'm going to jump back to you for a second, Adrian. Do you
Mm-hmm.
feel like Scott Hall became a bigger star because he left?
I think so. I think so. I mean, it was perfect for the time. It was. It just seemed like a lot of stars were aligned for a lot of these
Mm,
guys of that generation, like him, Nash. You can say, of course, Stone Cold, like Sean, like all. There were a lot of benefactors of that blurring of kayfabe, of like a new age kayfabe that came from that new generation, heavily character based, cartoonish deal to more of a reality, like we talked about Crash Television. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was just that middle bridge that a lot of guys heavily benefited from, I think. And I can't argue that he wasn't a bigger star after the move.
mm. All right,
I
Lee,
know
what do
his
you think?
pockets were.
Oh yeah.
I I think hindsight is just 2020, right? Like you can't deny the fact you just became, in some ways, such a touchstone of pro wrestling. Period. Because
Hmm.
I've said this before. I've been to events, I've been to venues, I've been to even when the Bullet Club had their the Renaissance in the late 2010s.
Hmm.
When I would do the Too Sweet, or people that didn't know what was going on, like, oh, you're doing the NWO Too Sweet, oh,
NWO.
you're doing that,
Hmm.
and then that brought them in, right? So I think they just had this kind of broader reach, and him changing over was just like the perfect timing. So yeah, definitely became a much bigger star.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about them, and I always thought this was wild, and it's still wild to this day that DX runs the wrestling world. But the fact that you had the click break up and they legitimately at that
Divide
point
and
Yeah,
conquer.
yeah.
divide and conquer and took
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
But not just that. If you hear all the old road stories, you go back to the '80s and you listen to some of those podcasts, whether it's Dutch or Lawler or even JBL, they all talk about riding the roads. They all
Hmm.
Hmm.
talk about all the stories and all the stuff they learned, and they always learn from the old timers. You rarely hear them talk about how they learned together. Like even Austin, we talk about I roll with Dutch and all these different things. I feel like the Click was a throwback because if you ever hear them talk, they all said all we did was sit around and book the territory and talk about what we would do different. How should we do things different? What story ideas, and they had story ideas for other people, and it's like now they split and they still did the same thing. And to this day, NXT run by Sean. The rest of the whole world run by Hunter, and then throw in Road Dogg in there. And truly, if Nash wanted to be, he would be in there too.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
it's wild to think about that group. You look at that curtain call, and that curtain call, the group in that room, that ring, literally ran professional wrestling and became the top stars across the board for the next few years. It's just crazy.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just wild to me.
Mm.
All right, so we are going to jump to another one. Let's see. This is one that popped on my radar really quick, even though he was brought up as well, as y'all said something about that. But this is one Scotty the Body, Scotty Flamingo, Johnny Polo.
Johnny, can you hear us?
Yeah, of course I can hear you, McMoron. What do you want?
I beg your pardon?
Yeah, listen, what do you want to know? Marty Jannetty tonight? I already told you. It was just a short month ago that I told everyone in TV land that I could take Marty Confetti and the snot-nosed kid and beat them both at the same time. And what did I do? I did it. I proved to everyone. And now, once again, for all my adoring fans, my worshiping, beloved fans, I'm going to prove once again by tonight defeating Marty Confetti 1, 2, 3 in the center of the ring. And that's why I am Johnny Polo.
We thank you very much. Johnny Hobo, and we'll be...
Tommy Dreamer. I got caned by Just Incredible. I got DDT'd by you. I got my head split open, left a bloody mess. The EMTs had to bandage me up. The people left. The ring trucks drove away. And once again, I'm left all alone. All alone with my demons. But I take solace in the fact, Tommy, of all the misery that I'll bring to you and all the misery that we'll bring to the Impact players. Lance Storm, you will never ascend to the heights that I've been. And Just Incredible, you just won't be me. You can't be me. It doesn't matter, Justin, if you close every bar. It doesn't matter how many women you victimize. It doesn't matter how many titles you win. It doesn't matter how many people you leave laying. Quote, not just the coolest. Quote, not just the best. Quote the Raven, nevermore.
All right, so Adrian, you brought him up earlier. You brought up that Raven would be one of yours.
Yeah.
No doubt. He was a bigger star in ECW across the board. No doubt.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man.
But
absolutely is.
Talk to us about how those two contrasted from Johnny Polo wrestling Marty Confetti.
Right.
And Raven going against the Impact players with Tommy Dreamer.
I mean, the contrast between those two only speak to how much of a genius that dude is, man. How much of a great wrestling mind, how much of, like, we talk about it all the time, where you can see if someone gets it and understands it. He had it. He understood the game. As Johnny Polo, you're a shit heel, you know, you're a punk heel. What Vince called him, Johnny Hobo, even though he's Johnny Polo, you know, the rich brat kid. And it fast forward to being Raven, where here's this guy whose his cadence is super slowed down, so you have to pay attention to what he's saying. The intent is there. Just the overall character of ECW Raven is I don't really want to be here, but because I'm here, I'm gonna change this promotion, this industry in my image. I want you guys to feel the emotions that I have.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna constantly if you want to call him a Debbie Downer and make it as simple as that, that's what Raven was. He was a Debbie Downer, you know? And it worked. It worked, and it worked for that time. It once again, that's another you could pretty much make it a character study between pro wrestling around the time of Johnny Polo
Yes.
versus pro wrestling the time of Raven and ECW. But it speaks to the genius of it speaks to his genius, man.
Ali, talk to us about Raven.
Yeah, I kind of want to extend that piece and tease it out a little bit more that Adrian mentioned, this idea of him reflecting eras or reflecting culture, really, because that first one, again, it's purely in character. It's very much along the lines of a Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, right? But then you fast forward to Raven, who is now, he's unleashed. He doesn't have anything. This is truly him. It filtered maybe through the mind of Paul Heyman to coach him and to kind of direct him a bit, but just the camera already feels different. It's very guerrilla style. Just the angle it's a low angle. It's turned to the side. It's supposed to make you feel kind of topsy turvy there, a little bit weird, out of your element. So just the presentation is already so different, right? And the other piece is the diction. It's like, I don't feel like I'm watching a wrestling show as much as I'm watching a TV show, and this guy going on and on about these people who wronged them and the Impact players and how he's above them because they're all about, womanizing, and he even uses, victimizing, real strong language for even the time. But again, going back to this idea of grunge, and I think he's like a Mensa member. Like, this is a highly intelligent dude, right? Like, this is clearly not just a creative, but just a very intelligent person. But it was to me, it just stands the test of time. The same way we look at so many promos of that era, of like, I think of a Foley in that same breath, which is like just masters of the spoken word and of convincing you that, hey, I'm someone worth listening to, right? I haven't. He could be the worst wrestler in the world, and I'll probably be like, I can forgive that because I want to hear you talk, And it's fascinating to me how this promo kind of lends itself to that, because I do want to hear more of what he wants to do.
Provides so much more depth than what we were used to or in pro wrestling.
Yeah.
It's not just a rah-rah, I'm going to beat you up Saturday type thing. Even though we enjoy that. I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
But Raven definitely provided so much more volume and depth to characters. And that's why, again, I say it just speaks to his genius.
Well, I think what you said is that Johnny Polo's more of that rah-rah.
Right.
Polo's more of that traditional, I'm going to beat you up. Hey, look at me. I'm the heel, and Marty Confetti, I'm going to take you out again, basically. Making fun of McMahon and little things like that. And then contrast that to Raven, who really, at that time, was a modern-day Jake. The way he and also, that promo, he talked about a couple of different feuds with Dreamer, who, if I'm not mistaken, he was tag team champions with at the moment because he had just come back from WCW. And then
they were on
going after
TNA,
the Impact players, right? So there's a whole piece there of how he came in, he wins that tag title. There's the conflict with Dreamer because he just shows up out of nowhere. And then you have the Impact players piece, who was a great tag team as well. But and I also like the fact that there were some similarities that could have been drawn between Justin Credible and Raven, but he made a very good point to make sure there is that divide. Because those are two characters that could have easily come together from a little bit of a hardcore
This is
perspective,
true.
a little bit, hanging on that grunge piece, a little bit of that edgy piece.
Mhm.
And I think when Raven came back, what I liked about that promo is because I looked at several. I looked at a lot of early ECW ones with Stevie Richards and some others. So I was like, I like this one because it's this ECW on TNN post him going to WCW where he
Mhm.
became his star power was there, but when he came back to ECW, people lost their minds.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then he goes to WWE, just never really pans out to the level he could have. And then again, people just lose their minds to this day with an ECW piece. So I think
Absolutely.
he's to me one of the biggest ones that just a much bigger star outside of the Fed.
Definitely. Absolutely.
For
So I
sure.
got another one who it may surprise you a little bit. I'm curious to hear you guys' opinion on how much of a bigger star he is. So this one, I actually have 3 promos for this person.
Take a note, America. This is the response that you give to a superstar like me.
He's in Canada. FYI.
They're on their feet.
Now, I know that you all know about the draft lottery next week.
Lottery starts next week. It's gonna last a month? Yes, sir. Oh my gosh.
And I've been looking over the SmackDown roster, and it seems to me that they're missing something.
Missing something.
Check it out. They've got Americans. They've got Mexicans. They've got Japanese. They've got Frenchmen. They've got a giant. They've got a stutterer. They've got a dead man. They've got a rapping hip-hop poser champion.
Ladies don't like anybody.
That couldn't make me say I quit, even if he forced me to listen to his lame-ass CD, John Cena. But what they're missing, what they don't have, is a Canadian.
Did you realize that?
A Canadian that would kick the holy living hell out of anybody on SmackDown. So after next week, either I stay here on Raw or SmackDown will be getting an injection of the 3 C's. Charisma, Canada. I've been waiting for 12 long years to do this. And I want to dedicate my win at Against All Odds to all those people that at one time in their life have been held back. You see, for 8 years, I was told, you're not big enough. You don't have the right look. Christian, you don't have it. It took me 8 years. It took me to come to TNA. It took me to come in front of real wrestling fans to know what it is. You hear that? You hear that? The fans know what they want, and you can't fool the fans. So I finally figured out that nothing more than an opportunity. And at Against All Odds, I finally got my opportunity, and I made the most of it, because here I stand before you today holding one of the most prestigious, no, the most prestigious title in this industry. A title that's been around for more than 90 years, with names such as Dory Funk Jr., Terry Funk, Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, Dusty Rhodes, Jack Briscoe, and the list goes on and on and on. And after 12 years of working my ass off, my name will forever be linked to theirs. To a new heavyweight champion, to a brand new #1 contender named Monty Brown.
The alpha male, the #1 contender.
As you see, Monty Brown, at Destination X, you're gonna face Captain Charisma. You're gonna face Christian Cage. You are gonna face the NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
I'm an asshole.
That's just true. True words, never been spoken.
Now, I'm the type of asshole, you can hold the microphone, it's your job. Now, I'm the type of asshole that's numb to the world and everything in it. I don't care who's left in my wake. I don't care who's hurt. I was obsessed with becoming the AEW World Champion. In that revolution this past spring, I walked into Los Angeles ready to fulfill my destiny. I signed the contract, I stepped through those ropes, I hit a picture-perfect spear, and as I got up and I looked down at the canvas, I caught a glimpse of my past. And for one split second, I'm conducting my business. I became an asshole with feelings. And it cost me everything. And in the days and the weeks that passed, you're trying to piece it all together. The noise just keeps getting louder and louder, to the point where my own family is questioning me and pointing fingers. And Nick and Kip, I didn't realize that your nuts had dropped and you had the courage to actually stand up to me. And I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is you questioning me, because you haven't earned the right to question Christian Cage. Because when it comes to this business, I'll put it in these terms for you. When it comes to these I'm conducting business, I said. When it comes to this business, I've spent more money on rental cars making towns than either one of you have made combined in your entire career. Now, you want to know why I didn't stick to the plan? Well, it's simple. I didn't think the three of you were competent enough to pull it off. So I took a risk, a big risk. But again, I ask you this, Nick, Kip, Shayna, what would you know about taking risks, huh? Sitting in the lap of luxury, riding my coattails while I made enemies left and right with the things that I said and did. In fact, there's probably a lineup out that door of people waiting to maim me.
So one, Christian Cage. Adrian, I'll come to you first for this one.
Cool.
We talked 3 phases of Christian. WWE, TNA, AEW. Where do you feel like he was the biggest star? And just kind of tell me your opinions of those 3 promos.
Well, I honestly think the biggest star amongst those 3 would have to be TNA because of the presentation. This was very exciting for a lot of not just TNA fans, but wrestling fans in general who were fans of Christian's work with WWE. Or WWF back when he was in the Brood and stuff. Like, the guy grew. Essentially, we watched him grow. And this was his first opportunity to actually break out and be the man. And that's exciting for a lot of us. And that's very, I would say, enduring. You want to cheer for guys like that. You want to cheer for that backup player on your team who gets traded to another team as the starter, gets the opportunity, gets the shot, and he's knocking these shots down. You want to cheer for that person, even though he's no longer on your team. I do that as a Georgia fan with certain players that transfer from the school. I still cheer for them, especially if they're doing well, you know? So I think, to answer your question, the biggest star out of those three, definitely TNA. The AEW one is right up there as in being over with that crowd specifically. But from a mainstream standpoint, I kind of doubt if you poll a couple WWE fans, would they even know if Christian was wrestling? That would be the only reason why I put the TNA. And I mean, he held the championship. The NW. I mean, that's a classic title. That was the first first replica I ever bought. That was my favorite. So that's the biggest star, Christian, in my opinion.
The 10 pounds of gold.
Yep.
Adelaide, your thoughts about Christian? Same question. Where do you feel like he was the biggest star, made the biggest, no pun intended, impact?
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to echo that. I mean, just seeing it on its own and seeing on like how much of a star he was portrayed to be in that TNA run, because he goes back to WWE eventually, and then there's he's kind of pigeonholed into basically his old role for the most part. There's some runs with the gold and the entrance and everything, but by and large, it's just kind of an extension of who he used to be. I'd argue that the AEW run, if it holds and they pay off certain things, but it seems like this run he's really he built that faction, and then he's trying to kind of elevate the talent, which I think is commendable.
Absolutely.
But that run, man, it just made him just seem like he could stand on his own 2 feet. Not that I don't think I ever doubted that, but I don't think he was ever given the opportunity. Obviously, in WWE, he was always seen, Edge was obviously always seen as that major star. So as a bookend, I do appreciate the AEW run, because once Edge came back, or once they were both in the company, they paid it off and they made some pretty cool television. Just even with that last tag run they had, which they could have easily just said, all right, we're going to make you face now, and no, they honored the fact that he is now this grizzled version of himself, and it's cool to see that character development, because as we real, we just talked about, earlier you were saying about how old timers would just, they'd be going down the roads and telling stories and booking the territory, right? These are two guys that love the business.
Absolutely.
If you remember, Edge and Christian were not the partiers, right? They were the ones that would go home as soon as the show was over, go to the hotel room, talk shop, maybe read a book, right? They were homebodies, and on those trips, they were talking wrestling. Hell, like I think Edge ends up getting a paying for wrestling school based on an essay he wrote. Right? These are the type of people that found each other, right? So, because it's a personal aside, and if you've been listening to the podcast long enough, you know the story. But I got a chance to meet him when he wasn't wrestling anymore, and it was through a TV show, a segment that never aired on WWE TV when they were doing that prank show. But he was really nice, very kind, and just selfishly, I'll just say he got me and the people I was with. He got us tickets to the next house show, but you could tell how painful it was for him to get wrestling questions, because all our questions were always like, "Hey, when are we going to see you back in the ring?" And to hear him say, like, it's really up to the doctors at that point. So to see this guy have this renaissance, that's the reason it makes me appreciate the AEW run, because it's a run that really should have never happened ultimately. And even that stint he had in WWE, when you thought, all right, he's going to go back and they're going to do business. And obviously they didn't see that for him. And that's why he's where he's at. But I think just longevity wise, you always wonder what he would have done in those years he's away. But I mean, he's making up for it right now. And
yes,
I would love to see, that same run. I don't think they'll put the title on him, but that same type of run maybe he had in TNA, that same fire, and just let him have something, maybe have him run with one of the lower tier titles or something again.
Yeah, I think watching these 3 promos, you see an evolution.
Yeah.
You see a role player, a main eventer, and a star. I mean, like literally in those orders. And like as to me, his AEW run, he's been a star.
Yeah.
In TNA, he was a main eventer, but he wasn't necessarily a star. He didn't know how to be a star yet. In AEW, he's become a star. And here's why I say that. And I think he's a bigger overall personality. Take away mainstream. We can't look at that. But in wrestling, in his AEW run, it's the first time he actually got to stand on his own 2 feet, do his own thing, outside of the shadow of Edge and Christian.
Yeah.
Because when he went to TNA, he still had that shadow. He was the first one to jump. Let's call it what it was. He was the first one to jump. And it did increase his stock at WWE because when he came back, his first push was ECW World Title.
That's true.
And at the time, they looked at that title as a respectful title. And so, because they defended it not just on ECW, on pay-per-views and other stuff, right? And so him going and getting that title was a huge deal. But this AEW run, think about how it started. Big Show coming out saying we're going to have a great big announcement because, Tony had a new announcement every single week at the time. And Hall of Fame type talent, and everybody's just so excited. It was Christian. And they boosted it up so bad, and it was kind of like you felt bad for him. Like, people like Christian, but they're expecting something bigger. And I hate to say that, but a bigger name.
Yeah.
And he took that and has built it into a star-powered run. And I think he's done the best work of his career. Then his best friend comes over, and they present Christian as equals, if not above Edge.
If not bigger. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that AEW has done is they did not just cower to say, oh, here comes Edge. And it was nice to see those two be able to do that because that's something Vince would never have done. And because Edge was such a powerful personality, it's not a knock on Christian. It's just But Christian was able to establish himself, in my opinion, within AEW, where when Copeland came in, it was like, no, I don't want you here. I mean, it was cool. I like that storyline. So for me, I think watching him in that AEW promo, the confidence is different, the delivery is different, the comfortability is different. Everything about it is different. That first one, he's comfortable being in Canada, but it was a canned type of a promo.
Yeah.
The one with TNA was like, man, I finally made it here, but I don't know how to be this main eventer. But in AEW, in that sequence, that's why I'll put all 3 together. For me, he is now that star that we all know he could be.
You hear in the crowd when he comes out, that character work he's put in. It took a little bit to kind of buy into it, but man, it's a fun time when he comes on screen.
So, do you guys argue the fact that he's a bigger star outside of WWE or inside of WWE? In the pro wrestling universe, not mainstream.
No, I wouldn't argue. Yeah. He's another great example of leaving the machine and going off to be a bigger star elsewhere. Yeah, he's a perfect example.
Yeah, because I totally blanked out on the ECW run, but maybe initially it would have been like something that he was an equal of champion, but just the way that whole construct was with ECW or ECW 2.0, it really wasn't it. It doesn't stand the test of time. Whereas I can see this AEW run definitely. I was looking back on it, in a few years and being like, oh, that was great work.
Yeah.
And I mean, even right now, we can say that, obviously.
Absolutely.
And I'll say one thing about the ECW run, because they, at a time, WWE did treat it as a third brand, big.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, Taker won the Royal Rumble and showed up at ECW when he was deciding what title to go for. And he confronted Bobby Lashley.
Mm.
And I was like, I remember that. I was like, you just elevated this show. This show just went boom, because Taker doesn't do stuff like that. I mean, because at that point you had
At
Lashley,
least at that point.
you had Matt Hardy, then you had Ed, not Edge, I mean, but Christian. You had those type of level stars, upper mid carders or whatever. But that leveled it up, right? Later, it kind of came down a little
Big
bit
show.
level, but it just became different later on. But I think in the beginning of ECW, they tried, and I think that at that point, and I say that to say they had respect when they put that belt on people, and Christian was one of them. But Christian doesn't get that little push if he doesn't go to TNA.
Yeah.
But all right, guys, thank you for this one. Hopefully, you enjoyed this type of something outside the machine. Something who made a bigger name for themselves outside of the machine, outside of WWE. And like I said, not just people who were in developmental. I mean, Swerve was definitely on my list of like top, but I was like, I don't recall him being on the main roster. If it was a
On the
cup of
main
coffee,
roster,
because they got released pretty quick, and when they got brought back, he didn't come back, right?
That's
And
right.
beyond that, there's just not a lot. I mean, I'll tell you one that had honorable mention for me.
Who was that?
Arguably a bigger star. Arguably, it's Kurt Angle.
Huh.
Because and when I say that, when you sit back and think about, so just think about this name, Mount Rushmore of WWE, you don't hear Kurt Angle's name. When they talk about Mount Rushmore of TNA, you do hear his name.
Hands down, yeah.
And because his run was longer in TNA, he had better matches in TNA, he had better promos in TNA, he had more comedy and some other stuff over there. But what he did in TNA was magical.
That's true.
Magical.
That's true. That's a very good point. Yeah.
It's hard to argue that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just kind of fun to sit back and think about it, and then it's also hard. I mean, there's some you sit back and go, man, there's, and when I say it's hard, that also contributes to the genius of the creative that has happened in WWE. We've talked about all the misses they've had. They've had so many, but dang, they've had a lot of hits. I mean, it's just, and when left to their own accord, a lot of people don't. I mean, I will say another honorable mention, and this is one we have blasted. Adrian and I definitely have blasted, but I'll say he's teetering is Ricochet. Because Ricochet has a personality now that he didn't have. He's got a character. He's got fans. He's worked the internet. He's worked the social media. He's done a good job. And I mean, I'll be the first one to tell you, I blasted him, but he found a groove. And I think this is the testament of why we need AEW, why we need these other companies, because they can go try other stuff. Whether they come back or not, cool, doesn't matter. When I say come back wherever you want to go. It doesn't matter if you go AEW to WWE, back to AEW, or back, whatever. Having those options to go try new things is huge. We've all talked about one a few weeks ago, Tony Storm.
Yeah.
Another one.
Yeah.
And I mean,
perfect example.
And reinvent, not just become a bigger star, totally reinvent herself.
Yeah.
You could even argue Ash by Elegance, and that was another one that I had thought about.
Man.
Yeah.
And so, and another huge one for me that I came this close to bringing, Matt Cardona. Because I was always curious to see what his reaction would be when he came back at some point to a WWE show. And of course he went to NXT, but still that reaction was massive.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a huge testament, because you changed your name and you did everything on the indies. You didn't do it on a bigger scale. You didn't do it in AEW. You didn't do it really on a TNA. You did it on a grassroots
ground level, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I had fun kind of researching it and kind of think about some different names. I had an idea that you may bring up Raven. Didn't expect Scott Hall to be brought up. I figured that would
Yeah.
be one that a lot of people don't think about.
Right.
But and I didn't think you guys would have Christian on your list. So,
I did.
No.
but yeah, thank you guys for taking this trip down memory lane, seeing one Johnny Polo. Just Raven to me, just going back to that for a second. I remember when he was Scotty the Body in Memphis. And then when he was in WCW as Scotty Flamingo. And then showing up in WWE as Johnny Polo, I'm like, that's Scotty Flamingo. And then when he showed up in ECW, I had no clue it was him.
Yeah.
It's
Completely
like, different. Yeah. Wait, who is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, he had a polo stick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was wild.
Yeah.
But no, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And for all you listeners out there, watchers of the YouTube channel, make sure you come to intothebuilding.com. Like, subscribe, share, comment. You know the drill. Everybody tells y'all to do the same thing, but it does help the algorithms. It helps us on the
Absolutely.
back end. We truly appreciate it. Check the back catalog. Give us suggestions for other shows. Let us know feedback on this one. And tell us some people you think that, hey, they became bigger stars outside of the machine. So for Adrian, for Adelaide, I'm Greg. We'll see you on the flip side. Peace.